Welcome to the SENcast. My name is Dale Pickles, Managing Director of B Squared and the host of the SENcast, the podcast for special educational needs and disabilities. Each week we'll be talking about a different topic within the world of SEND to improve our knowledge, to provide support to professionals working in schools and to empower parents. In this episode, we discuss how SEMH challenges, post-pandemic trauma and the rise of emotionally based school avoidance are affecting attendance rates, and what schools can do and what parents can do to help. This was discussed this week with my guest Helen Bray, the Director of SEND for the East Midlands Education Trust, or EMET. And Helen has 20 years of experience in teaching and leadership across early years, primary and secondary, and she is extremely passionate about helping all pupils to succeed. The SENcast is created and produced by us here at B Squared. We help to show the small steps of progress pupils SEND make, and we can do this for a wide range of abilities and ages. Whether you're at the very bottom, working within that engagement model, really small steps of progress, we can profile that student's needs and we can celebrate the progress that child is making, however small. If you're at the end of the spectrum where you've got older students working towards independence, you're looking at employability skills, functional skills, all those independent living skills, we can help show progress there as well. Visit the B Square website or click on the meeting link in the show notes to book a meeting with me so I can take you through our assessment software and how it can help you. Now, let's get on with the podcast. In this week's show, we're discussing how SEMH challenges, post-pandemic trauma, and the rise of emotionally based school avoidance are affecting attendance rates and what schools can do about it. My guest on this week's episode is Helen Bray, the Director of SEND for the East Midlands Education Trust, which is EMET, apparently is how you're supposed to pronounce it. Helen has 20 years of experience in teaching and leadership across early years, primary and secondary. She is passionate about adaptive teaching, high quality support for students with SEMH and breaking down silos to provide a holistic approach to supporting students. Welcome to the show, Helen.
Thank you for having me again. It's lovely to be back.
You are very welcome. Now, we all know how important attendance is, and there is a very big link between attendance and outcomes for pupils. But it is important to understand that the low attendance is not the cause. There is often an underlying reason a pupil isn't in school, and it's that root cause that's affecting both the attendance and their ability to achieve.
Absolutely. Attendance isn't about registers. It's not about percentages. It's about readiness. And right now we've got far too many children arriving at school that are just completely emotionally unready and mentally overwhelmed, or quite simply not arriving at school at all. And we're not just seeing more absences, what we're actually seeing in our schools across the country is more distress. And behind every single persistent absence, we've got to remember as educators, as frustrating as that can be, there's a story behind that. And far too often, that story includes anxiety and it includes trauma. And it includes that sense of these children and young people simply feeling that they do not belong. And just in the summer of 2004, I looked this up this morning, Dale, there were over 1.6 million pupils in England persistently absent. So that's a 78% increase since before the pandemic. So it's proof that this isn't just an attendance issue. It's like a well-being emergency. Our children are not okay. And our pupils that have got SEMH vulnerabilities and those with SEND and those that are eligible for free school meals or in care, they are 2 to 3 times more likely to be persistently or severely absent. And these children aren't just being defiant, they are dysregulated and they are children in crisis.
And it's interesting, you see this come up on social media about the attendance, and somebody, even professionals in education, will say, well, when I was at school, blah, 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 and it was fine. And I think school when we were children and the way school is now, very different. Not just what goes on in the school day, the school rules, but also the world outside of school and how all of that interacts. We cannot say, well, I went to school fine, they just need to man up, or whatever the phrase someone uses to say, just, get that resilience, just send them in. No, it's a very different world to how it was then to how it is now.
100%. And you're right, years ago that system was built, and the system has sort of remained the same since we were at school. And it's been built for that consistency. But our children don't really live in a consistent society anymore. They're actually growing up in chaos sometimes, emotionally, digitally, socially. If we want them to show up, then we've got to show up a little bit differently. We have to approach this in a much different way. We need to be asking what's stopping them from feeling safe enough to stay at school, not why won't they come to school. And a lot of the agencies that are working with parents to try to get our kids back into school are simply saying to parents, you have to be harder on them and make them come to school. That's not always possible.
It's what I hear and I see a lot and hear it talked about a lot, and often someone will then go, no, that's not right, which is completely, it is not right. It's not about, as you said, the percentage. It's not about getting the numbers up, and just as long as they're in school, it's the safest place for them. The reason they're not in school is they don't feel it's the safest place for them.
Yes.
So there's a big disconnect with the child there. And as you mentioned at the beginning, there's attendance and there's attendance. There's being in school, and then there's being in school engaged and learning. Two very different things. And I know I used to get forced to go into school. I had 100% year attendance 1 year at secondary school. I was not really there the whole time. My mum was a teacher, and no matter how I felt, I had to be in because she couldn't miss school because she was a teacher. So I'd go in and some days literally just live through the day. I didn't learn a single thing. That's not saying, and I know school on our, we've done some webinars before, and the school have found out that their children between 90 and 95% attendance then made more progress than those between, or just below 100, made more progress than those, better progress than those who had 100% attendance. And my daughters don't have 100% attendance. And that's fine. Doesn't matter. Because I listen to them, I talk to them, and they know that they don't always have to go. If they don't feel well, they don't have to go in. My youngest has mental health days. She's neurodivergent. And some days, some months, she just said, I can't go in. What would me forcing her going in provide? How would that help her academically or anything at all? Nothing. It will not help a single thing. It will negatively impact her in lots of ways. So why send her in?
And sadly, the system that schools have to follow, it is, the law for them to follow it. The system is actually set up sometimes to facilitate that child to then fail again.
Yeah.
So there has to be some sort of systemic change. We can't attendance policy our way out of this situation. We have to ensure that we've got that culture of safety and trust and understanding where our children feel that they can be their authentic selves and say when they're not okay, and that they will be validated and supported through that, not then further punished for not being okay.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think we've got to work out, for our children, is school a nice place to be? And again, most adults, if they're not enjoying where they work, they will move.
Yeah.
If that office doesn't feel right, if their school they're working in, the head teacher's change, I don't like the new atmosphere, it's not right for me, you move. You have that choice. You go to where it works for you. Kids don't have that choice. They can't just go, you know what, I'm bored of this school, or it's not for me, I'm going to go move to... No, that's your school. You have to go there. But is a school welcoming and supportive for our children? And I think in a lot of secondary schools, they really aren't.
And our schools aren't going to know that unless they ask. Unless
Yeah.
we've got that pupil and that student voice, and that's collated in a way where the children feel that they won't be then punished for being honest with that voice, we're never really going to know.
No.
And we as a trust, we've just done for all of our primary schools a well-being and mental health survey, and we got an overwhelming number of responses for that. And when we've then dug down quite deeply into the data that that's given us, it's helped us to really ask some incredible questions in terms of why this part of the day, why is it that year 3 in this school aren't happy after lunch? What is it about that? And what is it about these 5 schools where the process of walking through the school gates is the bit that they can't cope with during the school day, but they actually love the lessons in the afternoon? Why is that? And digging down into that and asking those honest questions and not being afraid of some of the negative feedback that you might get, that's the only way you're going to learn from it. And colleagues in our trust have been, our leaders in our trust have been so overwhelmingly welcoming of the feedback from this, because it means that they can actually use it to provide that culture change and support our children more. That's what we need. We need our leaders and we need our educators to actually actively listen.
No, you said you got some students in some schools who don't like going to school in the morning, don't like walking through the gates, but they enjoy the lessons in the afternoon. Now, I could surmise that they're not enjoying the English and the maths part. Now,
or the walking through the gate part.
Something about...
the transition.
Yeah, but if it is that English and maths, there are some people going, well, we have to English and maths, so... And then just ignoring that comment. It's like, yes, you can do English and maths. But most schools, most teachers all do it slightly differently.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than just hearing the answer and going, well, we have to English and maths, ignoring that and not even valuing their response. And, well, no kids like English, well, no kids like maths. It's like, that's not, you're just invalidating their voice. You're just dismissing them. What could you change? And you might find a small change is all that is needed to change some things. But don't dismiss those things.
No.
Because they don't like maths. Well, no one likes maths. Well, no. Most kids on a level, yeah, some love it, some hate it, but they shouldn't be at that point of writing, I don't hate maths so strongly.
Exactly that.
Said, that transition. So what is it about walking into that school that they're not liking?
Exactly that. And it gives you, once you've collated that, it gives you the power then to really broaden that out and do some really strong sort of mapping of the landscape for those children. Ask them more questions. Ask them why. And also share with them the alarming knowledge that you are also a human and that there are elements of your day that you might not like as well. You know, that's completely okay. I don't like getting out of bed in the morning anymore. I've reached my 40s and I've realised I don't want to get up at 6 a.m. And that's okay. You know, my children now bring me a cup of tea in the morning to help me to regulate. Brilliant. You know, we all have those elements of our day, those particular tasks that we avoid. And as adults, it's easy to call it procrastinating. And it's easy to think of ways around it because we've got this wealth of life experience where we can think about a task and then think of a way around it so that it has less impact on our mental health and well-being. Our children don't. And also, they're not always given the freedom to be allowed to do that. They're not always given freedom to say, actually, do you know what? I can't start this right now because I'm not feeling okay and I need to go for a run around the playground. In some of our schools, they are, and it works really well. And we get this amazing feedback that actually they do feel listened to, which is one of the questions we asked. Do you feel listened to? Is there someone there to listen? And the feedback from that was fantastic in the schools that had that really high percentage of children that actually said, yes, I'm very happy, I love my school. They felt listened to.
Yeah, those two things are linked. If you listen to me, I will love my school.
Yeah.
If there are times where I said, I hate this, and then someone explained to me, yeah, I get you hate it, but actually there's a reason. And actually, although you don't see it now, it's going to come to you in the future, and then you'll appreciate it. So I get you don't like it. I'll try and make it easier, but we've still... And you go to that feeling listened to is a really important factor.
It's that validation, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then as a staff member, as an adult or as a parent, you can then support that early intervention, that tier 1 support, in terms of putting in that scaffold, putting in a bit of a visual around it. Yes, I know that you really don't like this bit. Here's a picture of that school gate. I know you don't like this bit. But just beyond that gate, there's a football. There's a football, and Thomas is waiting for you to do your 5 minutes of football, to do your penalty shootout before you come in. It's that.
But perhaps in some schools, they're not allowed to do that before school. And perhaps that's the sort of thing. They're not allowed to play football games or ball games. And actually, they've now got to go there and just wait, where they'd rather be doing that. And it's so just, why? What is it?
One of our schools has, most of our schools have got sort of flexible starts and soft starts, but one of our schools has implemented our graduated response for social, emotional and mental health this year. They've been our pilot school for it. They came to me at the beginning of the year and said, we need something slightly different for SEMH. We've noticed our attendance has dipped. We need something different. Our engagement's dipped. We want our children to be happy. And we worked on this incredible tiered support system for SEMH. It started at tier 1 with everything that the teachers can do in that classroom, everything the TAs can do to support, including scripted conversations, this flexible start in the morning. How can we get these children through the gate that really don't enjoy coming in, but are fine? During the afternoon, they're okay, but they don't enjoy that process of coming through. And the support system that they've put in place, if you want to move through to tier 2, the class teachers then have to refer the child and say, this is what we've already tried. This is everything that's in place. This is what the parents tried. This is what's working well. But we're still finding a tricky, spot here. After lunch is still tricky. It's taken in by the referral team, and they sit every 2 weeks and they look through all of these referrals. Some of them are battered back to the class teacher because they've not done the tier 1 stuff.
Yep.
And then they look at their menu of intervention. They look at their TA skills audit and their staff skills audit, and they pick the right person that's then released to do a package of work with that child or children. And they've noticed an increase in their attendance already, and they're only a term and a half in. So it's game changing, because they have completely they've designed this system around their children and their families, and they've utilised their resources so expertly, because the right staff member that needs to work with that child or that group is at that moment, for example, teaching year 5, they are the person that's released because they're the right person to do that package of work. And their attendance has increased already. Their low-level disruption records have gone down. Their suspensions have gone down. It works.
I think people were saying earlier, people see attendance as the problem.
Yeah.
To me, attendance is that canary in the coal mine.
Mm-hmm.
When that attendance is going to start dropping, that's the canary falling over, dying. It's warning you there's a problem. And in the coal mine, it's people dying or an explosion or something. For us, it's results and outcomes.
Yeah.
But there's a canary there for a reason. They know there might be problems. It's not, you don't go, oh, well, let's get a better canary. Let's get 2 canaries. That will fix the problem. There is another problem. And all that stuff you're talking about, that SEMH and supporting them and identifying, that's what needs to happen.
Mm-hmm. But you can't wait for a crisis.
No.
There's no point. in being reactive in this. You've got to build that bridge before the child burns out.
And I think it's much easier, I think, in primary, and just listening to the fact you've done that pupil voice bit in primary and capture that all and the engage is in my head. Yeah, primary schools are going to be a really good place to get that pupil voice. They will feel listened to, and that smaller schools, the head teachers and leadership can jump in and deal with it and respond and support. I'll be interested when you get to do that in secondary, how almost polar opposites the leaders and the students are, and how much they all butt heads, and in my head how little anyone is willing to give. And in my head, that's probably what you're going to see. And it's those pressures around results and exams and only seeing things one way because this is where everyone else does it. But to actually be brave enough to take a step back and go, all the students are saying this. If we change that, it might be something to do with uniforms. It might be something to do with lunches. It might be something random. But it's something none of the kids hate, none of the kids like. Changing that one thing, however big or small it is to you as a leader, but it's a big thing to those students, they're writing it all down, that will have a really big impact.
Yeah.
And there are things, my daughter's school, they've relaxed some things, so you can now wear the trainer style shoes, which has made my daughter a lot happier and more comfortable. That was always, finding the right shoes was always hard.
Yeah.
They used to be absolutely minimal earrings. They've relaxed that a bit. Great. But this term, I believe they've introduced you're not allowed to brush your hair in school or during lessons. And Helen's looking confused.
Sorry, my
I don't have
face
much
is very
hair,
confused.
so I'm obviously not going to be a big hairbrusher. But all that does is it makes my daughter worry about a hair all lesson, not just take a hairbrush out and go brush, 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 put it away.
Mm-hmm. And even if she hadn't have been worried about brushing her hair, now that she's been told that she can't, she's probably worried about it.
Yes. So we've had like 3 or 4 conversations. It's like, I do not understand that rule from any angle. There is no reason for that rule in any way, apart from perhaps one teacher complained that they didn't. I don't know. I cannot find a reason in my head for that rule to exist.
It's a new one on me. And without those reasonable, and I say reasonable adjustments, I don't think I'd be able to get through my working day. I wouldn't. You know, I'm working, you know, I worked from home today, and I worked from home, and I was, you know, dressed reasonably smartly for Teams meetings, but I'm still wearing my fluffy socks. But that helps me. It does help me to regulate. And I know I'm very blessed actually that the schools that are in my trust do look at reasonable adjustments and do make reasonable adjustments for young people and children with SEND and vulnerable children. They do that because they know when to pick the battle. A reasonable adjustment isn't something that's going to cause absolute carnage and mayhem. It's not going to turn your school into some sort of zoo or war zone. It's just going to make things better for that child. And it's going to help that child to not feel like they are completely in crisis and dysregulated. You know, I read an incredible book recently called Survival Psychology by Tony Brooks. He's brilliant. He's a great speaker if you ever get the chance to listen to him. And he sort of maps out, so in survival situations where you are literally fighting for your life and there's a tiger outside your cave, students facing those SEMH barriers, they often operate in that fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode. And his work on survival psychology really helped me to sort of understand why young people might actually just disengage from the learning. Not run away from it, but as you said at the beginning when we first started talking, be present, but not actually engage with the learning at all. And you need to be in an environment, you need to be in a culture within our schools where they can create that environment that helps all of our children and young people to feel safe enough to actually engage and to feel safe enough to learn. Because when a child's dysregulated, they're not choosing to avoid the situation, they're actually choosing survival.
Yep.
So,
What?
yeah, telling them to stop or telling them to listen, they can't access any of that executive functioning at that moment in time. They just can't.
My daughter's in year 11 doing GCSE year, doing all the mocks and being told. And there's subjects she does really well in, subjects she's doing okay in, and being told that, you know, if you don't get at least this mark on this mock, you're going to have to do the foundation paper and not the higher paper. And then she's looking at her A levels she wants to do, and she has to get these grades. So apparently we're just doing mocks in these subjects. So we go, cool. She's like, no, we're doing them in all subjects. Apparently, no, they're doing mocks in core, but tests in every other subject. 2 months after the last lot of mocks. And so she's gone through them all, and she's worried about reading, she's worried about the day of the exam. So in the morning, there's lots of anxiety. You get home, it didn't go as well as she wanted, lots of anxiety going through it all. Then we get to the point of getting the results. We're going to get English back today, so she's anxious the night before. Lots of talking about it in the morning. Gets to school, I get a WhatsApp message at lunchtime. She hadn't marked them yet. So it's now extended. And the anxiety and the stress my daughter is going through, and there's no matter what I say, there's no angle I can give her, because she's only got the perspective of this is really, really important. This is my life. This is going to affect everything. I have to get this. And she is so stressed with it all. And it's like, to me, she's overstressed. Others aren't that stressed, but it's sort of like, I can't help her. I can't do anything about it. And she is more or less in survival mode. Yes, she is in school, but I have no idea if she's learning anything or paying attention or anything. She's just making sure she gets these grades and the grades she needs to get to that next stage. That's all she's worrying about each day.
Yeah. And we could talk for hours, I'm sure, about whether or not summative assessment is the right form of assessment. But we know from the curriculum and assessment review that it isn't going away. It is a part of school life for all of our children moving forward at certain points in their school lives. We can't control that as schools and as parents, but we actually can control the way that we approach it and the way that we talk to our children about it and the way that they see that we do not feel that these assessments define who they are as a person or their success for the rest of their lives, that actually these assessments are a snapshot of time. And, you know, we're not going to address our children with good morning, Joseph, grade 9. That's not the way that it happens. And until we get that culture right, we're going to continue to have that stress surrounding assessments and possibly a knock-on in terms of anxiety related non-attendance as well.
And also, the way I think schools frame everything, and you can hear it in people when they're on wherever talking about their A-level choices, or they literally use a phrase, I've screwed up my whole life, I've chosen the wrong A-levels, or I've chosen the wrong degree. And I'm going, you're 19, your life hasn't even started yet. Yeah. You have the entry requirements for adult life. The fact you're at uni, you've got all the entry requirements, and you go do something else. If you fail GCSEs, what does that mean? Oh, you can retake them next year. You'll be a bit behind, but actually, once you all leave GCSE, you're all going to go in so many different directions. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. And you'll find as well that once you've had that conversation with your child or a child that's in your class, that you will then visibly see a weight lift off them. The anxiety will then be less. And the whole thing that they're worried about in the first place can actually then just start to feel a little bit better for them. We had the same with my son. He picked geography as one of his options. And half a term in, he said, I've picked the wrong thing. I've ruined my life. Because actually, he really missed history. He's brilliant at history. He's brilliant at geography. He couldn't pick those. I've timetabled a school before. I know it's impossible sometimes for that to happen. He picked geography. And at that point, he wasn't doing as well in geography as he wanted to do because he was just consistently reminding himself that he picked the wrong thing. But as soon as we'd had exactly that conversation, Dale, that actually this doesn't mean that you can never study history again. History is still open to you.
Yeah.
The gate is still open. You can still study it. You could do a history GCSE alongside your A-levels if you want. It's still an option. And actually, you're doing really well at geography and you're very good at it. It was game changing for him because he no longer felt anxious about it. It's about having those conversations and actually letting children say that they're not happy or not okay with something and not expecting them to conform and smile.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of conversations should happen in secondary, but I think they don't because the curriculum is so full and you've got so much to get through that it really is, we've got to get through this. It's kind of like almost every decision is a one shot, one time thing, and then that's decided. And there are so many people who maybe get their degree when they're 60, whatever. It's like, I don't have a degree. It has no impact on me. You don't need a degree. Yeah, I have a couple of bad A-levels. Doesn't mean anything in reality. Once you enter a job, qualifications get you a door. Yeah. Once you walk through that door, it's everything but those qualifications help you in that role. Yeah. You need a degree to be a teacher. Cool. You get your degree, you get your teaching part, you get your PGC, whatever, you do a degree in teaching. You become a teacher. That's when you learn how to be a teacher.
Exactly.
That's how you learn to mentor, to lead, to do all those things. You didn't learn any of that in your degree. It gave you some prerequisites. Yeah, when you did it gave you the prerequisites to get there, like your driving lessons. Everyone says when you pass your test, that's when you learn to drive. That's life.
And it's the same at secondary school for our children, isn't it? Because they're going through and they're doing their GCSEs in, year 10 and 11. And a lot of the things that they're studying and a lot of the things that they're learning, they've not really got an interest in pursuing after secondary school. But throughout that process, what they're actually learning is resilience of getting through something even though you're not actually enjoying it that much. They're learning a massive amount of executive function skills and independent skills because a lot of their learning has to be self-led by that point, especially homework, and it's actually the skills that they're building, those life skills and those study skills that they're building for that next stage, whether that be further learning, whether that be an apprenticeship or whatever they choose to do. It's the skills and it's the journey that helps them to build that.
It is. And we've talked about kind of this has increased from when we were young. And I think it's been increasing probably over the last 10 years. This kind of the way things are going and a bit of conformity getting bigger and bigger and children should be seen and not heard seems to be coming back. But I almost think that the pandemic gave us a step away.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of children have struggled to step back in. And I know there are adults who have struggled to step back in. There are adults who would always work in the school and now maybe at home recording a podcast going, it's quite nice being able to be at home. I'm getting more work done. I'm doing this. I'm comfortable. But if you had to be in the office, there's lots of things we've all learned. But again, come back to what we were saying earlier, the children do not have that choice. So whether you like it or not, you've got to go to school.
Yeah.
But I really don't like it. And giving me all the reasons why I should go, it's still not helping me. But we can change the schools. The schools do have flexibility, but only if they want to be.
Yeah, and it's flexibility to a limit. There are certain things, certain policies, certain procedures, certain legal elements that the schools don't have flexibility on. that they do have flexibility in their approach and their relationships.
Yes.
And especially their relationships with the parents, because no parent wants their child to completely disengage from education and be in a mental health crisis. No parent wants that.
No.
And we're in a system at the minute where our parents are sometimes being the people that are blamed. They're being the people that are the problem, when really they're your greatest asset as a school leader and any sort of outside agency that's trying to help a child get back into school. The parents, the greatest asset, they're the ones that are at home with that child that's struggling, that's in crisis. And we have to give them the voice that they deserve. They need at least equal weighting in terms of their voice about things like this, because when we're doing things like safe and well checks, we're actually seeing that child for a snapshot. It's a tiny amount of time that we're seeing that child for. And quite honestly, if my own children are dysregulated and someone walks into the house that's not somebody that lives in the house, they can, for a split second, they can snap out of that and be really, really lovely to Pop Pop. Hi, Pop Pop, it's so great to see you. Yeah, I'm having a great day. And I'll be stood there going, oh my goodness, they're being a nightmare. Because a child can snap out of it for a second and say, yes, I'm fine. We have to listen to the bigger picture and listen to the fact that actually that child isn't fine. And this is what they're telling me. The parents are asking for help,
Yeah.
not
There was
judgment.
there was a news story recently about police being called by a school on the parents. Did you see that?
Mm.
And I read into it, and it's one of the things I'm reading it going, and there's a lot more to the story than what's being presented. But the fact that the parents of I think, disabled, neurodivergent, and I can't remember if it's diabetic or epileptic, kind of is banned from school, and you're like, okay, how have you got banned from school? And then they're sending too many emails, and the police investigation said there's no action to take. And it just screams of two people or two sets of people butting heads and not having an open conversation about the child. And that's what we want. I think there's lots
Yeah.
of butting heads going on, ego on. And if you read any comment, if it's on a social media, it's all the parents joining in. That's the problem with the schools. My child's school, blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
Then you go on a parent group, a teaching group, and you'll get posted. And that's the problem with the parents. And it's just, these lines are drawn.
Yeah.
And no one's really willing to give. Yet in the
And
middle is a child struggling.
and also in the middle there's a child struggling that's probably very well aware that they are the problem, or
Yeah,
that they are being perceived to be the problem, because their parents are dysregulated and upset every time they hear from school, and the school are dysregulated and upset because the parents not making the child go to school. So for that child that's in the middle of all of this, who have they got? Who's there for them? And we have to shift the narrative. We have to change the narrative on that. We have to be more collaborative in the way that we approach this. And a massive part of this is also our local authorities taking accountability and responsibility for the systems and processes that are in place that our schools have to use. I know
yeah,
that a lot of local authorities at the minute are reviewing their systems, especially for children with SEND, to enable us to work more collaboratively and to enable us to share information. Because a lot of the time as well, our schools are given advice that isn't the right action to take for them as a school. And our parents are given advice that, again, they know may not work for their child, but also directly contradicts advice that they're getting from all these other agencies as well.
yeah.
I've worked with a parent recently who, again, she can't get her son to leave his room. He will not leave his room. And he is in a mental health crisis. And by one agency, she's being told, you need to be firmer, you need to shout at him, you need to make him go to school. And then on the same day, another agency is saying, why have you put that boundary in place? No, he needs to feel safe. You need to give him what he's asking for. Don't put boundaries in place right now. We can't cope. And parents in the middle of it saying, so what do I do? Like, I don't know what to do. It's so isolating and so hard for these children and parents where they just physically cannot walk through those gates.
And to me, what it always boils down to is you've got to start with a relationship. Those relationships have to
Yes.
exist. Yeah. With the parent and the child, we need to keep that relationship strong, and we want to build a relationship with others. So you really shouldn't maybe damage that trust. You shouldn't put them in situations that they are not going to enjoy. You'll damage that relationship. And the relationship comes in understanding and things like that. And when we think of grit, resilience, determination, whatever you want to call it this week, you don't put someone in a really bad situation and hope they'll build resilience. You only build resilience when you're in a good place. Yeah. So we've got to work on those relationships of trust, coax them out of the room to somewhere else in the house, build that resilience, kind of work on that, work on it, maybe just go for a walk, then later on go for a walk near the school. Finding out why, finding out those things, building that relationship and all those, that's what, it's a long journey. But you can't just take them to school, force them in the car and drop them out. That's not going to help anyone, and they will never leave their room, and they'll never trust you asking them to leave their room again.
No.
Because last time you did, you got to end up in school, and there's something they haven't told you because they're not sure how. Or, it's always got to come from that trust and relationships. That's the fundamental part.
Yeah,
You've got to build
absolutely.
on.
And before they can do that, before they can get through those gates, before they can learn, they need to belong. They need to feel accepted. They need to feel validated. They need to feel that they matter.
Yes.
And the right relationships that unlocks that for the children. They need connection before you correct anything. And all of our schools have had the pivotal training with Paul Dix, and it's absolutely fantastic. The book, When the Adults Change, Everything Changes. Every new teacher that I come across, I feel like I need to smack them around the head with that book. It's game changing. And they also do. They've also got the When the Parents Change, Everything Changes, which is a book that I've got quite a few copies of because I hand them out like Smarties. They are brilliant, and it's about that. It's about exactly that. It's about connection, and it's about a predictable adult response model. They need to feel safe with you and safe with the adults in their school and in their houses. And if they don't feel that that's predictable and safe, then they're going to be dysregulated, and that trauma is just going to keep going. It's just going to be a continual cycle of re-traumatizing over the same thing.
And a bit to add on to that is we all like our certainty. Neurodivergent or not, everyone likes that certainty. And if you're not great at socialising, if you're not great at things, if you kind of everything's you're unsure about everything, in your room you've got certainty. As soon as I step out of this, I'm not sure what smell's going to be coming from the kitchen, who's going to be in the house, what's expected of me, what my mum's going to ask me today. Will she be happy with me or is she sad because I'm not in school? We need to get certainty in there. Yeah. More certainty we can get, the better. And also, just because someone's in their room doesn't mean they're alone and doesn't mean they're not communicating with anyone. You can be part of it. There are things you can do. There are ways you can engage with your child. You can join in their games. If they're playing Roblox, Minecraft, whatever it is, can you join in? can you show interest in what they're doing? So actually when they come out of their room, they know they can talk to you about it. They know what they can talk to you about because they want to talk to you. They want to have a connection with mum and dad. But what do I talk about? Well, if you show them what they can talk about, they can talk about. And it's all those little things that I think as a child you forget you were lost and didn't know. And you needed those hands held and pointed out. And as a parent, I think we forget we can give them.
Yeah.
We can give them these little helps. We can put these little modelling. We can put these little steps in to help them get to where they want to, just with our time and effort.
Absolutely. And back in the good old days, Dale, when we were younger, we had the actual physical world. We had one physical world and 4 or 5, depending on your age, TV channels. We didn't have multiple digital worlds to escape to every time we walked through our bedroom door. I walked through my bedroom door and I had the Action Man collection that I'd stolen from my older brother because I preferred Action Man to Barbie. And I had my very techie CD player that I could record, the top 40 on. And that was it. And my desk and drawing and that was it. That was my escape. It was easy for my parents to come up, knock on the door, see that I was doing one of those 3 things and connect with me. It's so much more unknown now. And as a parent with boys, I often have no idea what they're doing. My son's into this game on the PlayStation where you're in this enormous ball, but you're in a car and you've got to drive this ball. I can't even remember what it's called. It's incredible. Rocket League. That's it.
Yeah.
Rocket League. Oh,
I'm rubbish at it.
My youngest son, wins tournaments on this thing. He is incredible. And he loves for me to just sit and watch him play. Yes, I ask him questions that make him roll his eyes. And yes, it makes me feel seasick, genuinely seasick, just watching him play it. But you're right, just seek that little bit of connection, even if sometimes you don't know what you're talking about and it feels a little bit uncomfortable, because it's so easy for them to then seek connection elsewhere if you're not showing that you're interested as a parent.
My tip for you is to get some really up-to-date slang.
Oh, okay.
And then when he does something wrong, use that slang.
Oh.
It's just the most entertaining when the parents use that slang correctly against them. Like, I think negative karma or something, what is my daughter's, whatever, or something. It's just the look on their face when you use it correctly. It just destroys them.
Oh,
but it's so much fun that you knew it. They're like, how did you, what? And it's just so much fun. And my daughter does it to us. And she says it to us, so we pick them up. Or my wife gets it from school and uses it on my daughter. And it is so much fun. My daughter plays Rocket League. She plays Valorant. All those things. I get the aim. I know it. There's some extra stuff in that game that's why she likes it. I don't get, but she tells me all about it. I'm not 1,000,000% interested. But what I like, and I think what you probably like when you watch your son, is I don't care what you're playing, but you love it.
Yes.
And you're passionate. And you want to share it. And that's the bit you've got to help grow. And it's easy. When we were young, it was easy. Not a lot going on. When your kids are young, it was football down the park. Yeah, it was. Now there's digital world. It's where is this digital world? But also, when we watched TV when we were young, you might get lost in that world in your head, but it was you in that world. But now it's your friends. It might be friends from school. It might be other friends. But they're in a world with friends, so they don't actually have to come out for any reason. And another difference, which is, again, back in our day, if you wanted to come around and play Chucky Egg or Sonic or whatever, it was we shared the games console. We either took turns or we could play 2-player co-op in the same room. Yeah, sitting next to each other, having lots of fun. And I remember times there'd be like 6 people in my study, and we're playing Chucky Egg, taking turns. So one person's playing, 5 people are waiting, chatting, talking, learning all those social skills. Now all 6 people would be in 6 separate houses, playing on their own with their headsets on, not really having to wait or take turns or cooperate hugely. And there is a big element of the socialness missing, that face-to-face.
Definitely.
Parents
And
can
also,
fill it in.
you're right. And the social sort of connection that we would learn as very little children with that face-to-face communication. I mean, I used to play Snakes and Ladders all the time, Snap. Oh, graduated up to the Game of Life. Love that game. Our kids are playing games. They're playing games that involve an enormous amount of strategy. And some of these games are like off the chart. I wouldn't be able to play them. They're just amazing. But none of it is face to face or side by side anymore. You're right. They don't have to take it in turns because these games, they are all playing all at the same time. And they're living in this attention economy almost, and schools aren't designed for that. But we're trying to teach them, or we expect them, to have patience. And it's almost like we're expecting them to come into school already having all of the skills that we had naturally because we grew up developing them. Whereas these are children that were raised with things like YouTube and Netflix, where everything is instantly available, instant gratification, like at the touch of a fingertip. So, of course, we now need to adapt the way that we teach that and adapt our expectations of that as well. Because that expectation when they come in, that's already developed and embedded, it's too high. It isn't there anymore.
But it's not just that there are skills missing. There are loads of other skills that are present.
Yes.
That we're not tapping into, but we're also assuming they don't have. So the foundations, all the assumptions we expect children to come with are completely wrong. There are things they can do which we're not using anyway, and there are things we think they can do they can't do. And it's kind of going wrong from there, but at the same time, there's not a huge thing for kind of building up those skills they're missing, but then starting to use those skills they've got in ways. So Rocket League, you can do 1 player, 2 player, 3 player on a team. The less players, the more risk. Are you going to go for the goal but leave yourself open? And you've got to really weigh it up. It's not just a case of hit the ball. There's a lot going on cognitively when you play these games that you will just get destroyed and then learn and go and realise and plan and adapt and overcome and pay attention and look for things on such amazing levels that I struggle. My daughter's better. But that doesn't really come out in school.
But why?
Yeah.
Why don't our schools, some of our schools, not all, some of our schools are amazing at this. Why don't our schools know these things about the children? Because they are absolute golden nuggets of information. If we know what their strengths are, if we know what their interests are, and we map those out, and we make sure that the way in which we approach teaching and learning, the way in which we develop and deliver PSHE curriculums is teamed towards the actual children that are in those rooms.
Yeah.
We shouldn't see as many children vote with their feet and not being in the room.
Yeah.
We need to know our kids. You know, I'm very fortunate. Our children go to a wonderful secondary school and they are known well by their teachers. And if one of them isn't having a very good day, the pastoral support at that school is brilliant. All of the teachers know about it. They all have check-ins. But also, I feel that school know my children's likes and dislikes because, for a start, on transition, they ask. The transition documentation that goes from their primary up to their secondary doesn't just ask for a load of numbers and figures. The kids just aren't numbers and percentages on a page. They actually ask the real questions. What do they sometimes struggle with? are they okay with transition? Did they struggle when they moved from year 2 to year 3? Are there any areas of the day that they find challenging? These are things that our schools are sending on to their secondaries, and they're the right questions to ask. One of them is, what are they most proud of? And that's the sort of information that you need as a pastoral lead in a secondary school, because there's your connection. If one of my children were dysregulated in school, take my eldest, for example, if he was dysregulated and his head of year started talking to him about 1980s gaming, he would instantly be able to come down from that quicker. Instantly. If I weren't okay right now, if I'd have logged onto this and been really, really nervous and said, Dale, I just can't do it. I can't do a podcast today. I've got imposter syndrome, I can't do it.
I would have started talking about online cycle racing or something.
There you go. You just started talking to me about cycling.
Something you know. You just
exactly.
use something.
Exactly that. You just started talking to me about cycling.
You have to know them.
Yeah.
You have to spend time building that relationship.
Exactly. And that's why I keep saying it's that connection. Before you start to make kids better or make them make the right choices, you have to have that connection with them. They're never going to want to listen to you in the first place if they don't feel invested in. And that's why you get so many kids shouting, I don't care. They do, actually. They do. They're desperate for you to prove them wrong and to care enough to prove them wrong.
Someone told me about a study. It was, I don't know how scientific or whatever, but basically they had two groups doing a project. And the first group so it was a load of individual people and a teacher. Let's crack on. Yeah. They just cracked on and worked through what they had to get to it. The other group basically just spent the first lesson doing nothing about the project, just getting to know each other, just having fun.
Yeah.
Halfway through, the second group were miles behind because they wasted that whole lesson, but they actually got the project completed first because they knew and each other all worked better together. And I do think that at secondary schools, there is so much pressure to get through the curriculum that actually maybe we should just spend time getting to know each other and realising the teacher is human, the children are human. My eldest daughter, Great British Bake Off was on, so every week that was a conversation some children in the class would have and be into it. But at least, even if you're not into it, you still see that teacher as a human. Yeah. You still say they're into this. And my daughter every so often would bake cookies and take them into school at Christmas. And it just those little things make a really, really, really big
100%.
difference. So much more than people realise.
Yeah. And you're right. Our children seeing that our educators are actually human actually makes them feel a little bit less rubbish about themselves when they're dysregulated. Our children will go into these cycles of shame because they feel that being dysregulated is bad, that being angry is wrong. And actually, if our teachers own their own dysregulation and emotions and actually voice it sometimes and say, one of the classes that I've covered in the past year walked in and said, well, nobody unloaded the dishwasher last night, so my morning was rubbish because I'm really cross because there are pots everywhere and that's it. I'm now in the red. I'm really, really cross with the whole world today because nobody did the dishwasher. And then I'm in the same school a few weeks later on the rounds, and one of the year 10 students said to me, you look a bit cross, miss. Is it the dishwasher again? And we just had a bit of a giggle. And it's that connection. He knows I'm a human. He knows that sometimes I get irrationally cross.
But
that's
I bet
okay.
Someone in his house has got irrationally cross about the dishwasher or the washing up. Everyone does it at some point. Everyone gets grumpy. Everyone does something petty with the dishwasher, without a doubt. So it's that relatable thing everyone has. But it's really important. And I would say most teachers are dysregulated in school, at home, more than they realise, which
Yeah.
means they're also they're not in the most regulated. They're not going to respond quickly. And if you can recognise that you're dysregulated and work on your regulation, you'll be easier to approach. You'll be able to respond better. But there are reasons you're dysregulated. Yeah,
Yeah.
you didn't choose to be. You're not naturally dysregulated.
Yeah, nobody enjoys that.
So, yeah, share it.
Yeah. And that's okay.
Because you're modelling. I'm dysregulated. If I'm rude, I didn't mean it. I don't mean it. I'm having a bad day. I'm trying my best to not let it affect how I'm talking to you. And also that's that thing of, I think sometimes children think, not that they're the centre of the universe, but I'm dysregulated, you have to do this. And I do have that conversation with my daughter where sometimes I go, I know you need me to do this, but I can't always because I've got my own stuff I'm working on. So I can, sometimes I can jump when you need me to, but sometimes I can't, and you're going to have to suck it up. And that's the way life is, because you have your rules, I have mine. And she gets it. And sometimes she'll come to me and I'm like, I'll go, I'm sorry. She went, no, I shouldn't have asked because, and she knows why. So, but it's nice that I've apologised to her, but she's already worked out why I did what I did, and she didn't think, and we have a great relationship.
Yeah. And that the power of that apology. Adults do not apologise to children enough. It's almost that old school, back to the children should be seen and not heard bit. It's almost like there's this old-fashioned view that children don't deserve apologies and that adults get to make excuses for their behaviour.
I think there's a thing about, sorry, if you say sorry, you're saying it's your fault. It's like, no, that's a different thing. And I think, how often have you heard someone say, I'm sorry, then go, but? That's the next word they said. So you're not sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, but. And then you go, are you going, well, you're not sorry. You're just saying it because you think, but you still think you're justified. Sorry is a really interesting concept. We need to understand our own relationship with that word sorry, how happy we are saying the word sorry and what it means. And we need to share with our children that you say sorry when you've upset someone or hurt someone, intentionally, unintentionally, but you don't want to do it again. That's a big bit for me, not doing it again.
It's the moving on from it bit, isn't it? It's I'm saying I'm sorry, and this is how I'm going to make sure that I don't upset you in this way again.
Yeah.
And that this doesn't happen again.
You literally might be Helen, who's just got call of another Ofsted she's got to help with, and the son comes and asks this, and Helen might bite, and she didn't intend to. It's the external pressures. It's all this stuff going on, but that, and so you just say, look, I'm really sorry this happened, and he'll go, oh, okay, yeah, you've mentioned Ofsted before. That's a big thing for you. I've seen them in school. I get it. But you just saying the word sorry is so powerful, because you're saying them. You say it when it's not your fault, or not fully your fault, but kind of you bit. But it was like you were dysregulated, and you have that, and it's like, oh, okay. So adults are dysregulated. They make mistakes, but they say sorry.
Yes.
It's like there's a big thing about being a man who means punching something or doing this.
And then, lo and behold, you then find that when your children have been dysregulated, after they've calmed down a little bit, they come find you and apologise to you.
Yes. But apparently being a man means punching things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
No, being a man is walking away and doing the right thing. Yeah. That's a bigger thing. That's a much bigger thing.
Yeah.
And it's that apologise. All those sorts of things is doing the right thing to get the right outcome. Yeah. That is what being a man, a woman, or whoever it is, it's an adult. Yes, it's about what do I want out of this situation? What's going to be the right thing for me to do?
And that sometimes the right choice and the right action isn't the easiest, and it isn't always the one that makes you feel good.
No.
Sometimes doing the right thing is difficult, and I have those conversations all the time with the children and young people that I work with, but also with my own children, sometimes even with my other half. You know, I'm saying no to this right now. And I'm saying no because I am your mum and I'm here to protect you. And it's the right decision. Would it be easier for me to say yes? Absolutely. But I'm saying no because I'm doing it to protect you. Because I'm not your best friend. I'm your parent.
And then there are times where you really want to say no for your
Mm-hmm.
reasons, but you know you need to say yes.
Yeah.
So my daughter wants to go to Reading Festival. She's 16, and I'm going, she's not sleeping over, so she's not camping. And I really want to say no, 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 no. But it's like other people your age go, you're starting college 2 weeks later, you're turning 17 a few months later. You need to go do it. My worries want me to say no, but that's me. And I've said yes, but I explained the reason. I don't want you to go for these reasons, and we have all the things. But yeah, you need to. So yeah, it's hard being an adult.
Yeah. And
And
again, explaining that to them, I will sometimes say yes to one of my children, particularly my eldest, because he's a real, his sense of empathy is enormous. He can feel the room. And I'll say yes to something to him, but he can see that my face and my body's saying no. And he'll question that and he'll say, but you're not okay with this, are you? Are you okay? Do you need some lavender tea?
I think
But yeah.
children can see adults as we just shout at them, tell them we have
Mm.
unlimited money and we do what we want. I think is how a child perceives an adult.
Yeah.
And you literally have to break it to them quite gently over a long period of time that is the polar opposite.
Mm.
That we have hardly any money at all. We have no choice in anything we do. And we're asking you because we have to, and it's the right thing in the long term for you, even though we probably don't want you actually doing the dishwasher because you'll get it wrong. You need to learn the responsibility. Yeah, it's hard being an adult,
It is.
but we need to let the children know this.
Exactly. And then swinging it right back to the whole start of this conversation, when you go back to the attendance issue, everything that we've just said in the last 10 minutes, it's summed up in the fact that we need relationships.
Yes.
It has to be strong, trusting relationships. It can't be that there's this person of authority that you don't really know very well expecting you to trust you immediately. It doesn't work like that.
No.
And the the whole system, it needs to change. We need to shift from that punishment to that partnership, from punishment to relationships, and that takes systemic change,
Now
not just school by school.
I'm going to say the word adolescence. Helen mentioned it
Mm,
the last time we podcasted. I hadn't watched it. You'd watched it. I watched it that
yeah,
night. Phenomenal. All over social media, all over the internet. Lots of conversations going on. The only bit I want to say about that is the stuff we've been discussing
yeah,
is adolescence to me is a warning of when there are no relationships between the adults and the children, when there are no positive role models for those
yes,
children, no connections, no one kind of being interested in them. That is kind of the result that can happen. So if you haven't watched it, or if you've watched it, just think about actually those relationships between adults and the children in school, at home. Yeah, children might spend hours in their room. There's things you can do, there's ways you can connect, and you need to. And I know our lives are really busy, but we need to give our children time, and that's what I took from it. It's a wake-up call, not that children are doing all this stuff, but if you leave them alone and let them do, they will find attention from somewhere. They will find somewhere which makes them kind of give them things, but we need to make sure there's no void. We need those relationships. We need those positive role models. And that's to me, that's the message I take from it.
yeah, absolutely. And I know we discussed this at length before we pressed go on this podcast. It's understanding that, yes, our lives as grown-ups, our lives as parents and as educators are intensely busy, and we have less free time to spend with children than we've ever had before. Gone are the days where you've only got one parent working in your household. You know, most households it's two working parents or a single parent that works all of the hours God sends. And we have to carve out time. We have to carve out pockets of time for that connection. Because I remember when I was young, my absolute idols were my parents. I looked up to my dad in every way. The way that my mum helped to shape and raise other people's children is incredible, and it's why I'm sat here today. I wouldn't be an educator if it weren't for watching my mum with children. And our children, they don't look up to parents and teachers and idolize parents and teachers and seek the attention of parents and teachers as much as they did back then, because they have other avenues to get it. And there are so many quite dark and extremist places that they can get that from at the click of a button and at the flick of a finger online. We have to protect them from that. We have to be that person that they look to if they've got a problem. You know, if they have a relationship breakdown, we have to be the person that they go to say, I'm really hurt. This is why I'm hurting. So that we can help them to rationalize that and to move past it, and to know that actually, do you know what? Relationships do end sometimes. Friends do fall out. That doesn't mean that everybody's evil. It doesn't mean that all women are horrible. What it actually means is that in life people get hurt, and in life relationships start and they end. When our children are then seeking support from other avenues where they're hearing these extremist views that actually agree with what they're feeling in that moment because they're angry or they're upset or they're confused, that's really dangerous.
Or it's the only view they've actually ever heard.
Yeah.
And you said right at the beginning of there, we do not have the time we used to.
No.
And yet this problem didn't exist back then, but it exists now. That's a very strong
There's
correlation. Yeah. Time available to spend with our children. And there are so many things when something happens at school, they tell you the story, so they're doing it because of this. And they might go, no, it's because they're but they listen, it goes in, it percolates, it goes through, and it helps them form those friendships and ideas. But yeah, we need to find time for our children.
Exactly. And when they do make those mistakes, whether it be that they're refusing to, do something, or that they've not done their homework, or that they've said something that they really should not have said, if we're noticing that there's a pattern there and we're worried, instead of saying what's wrong with you, actually rephrase that and ask them what's happened, because you will actually get a more well-rounded, more honest response, because the what's wrong with you is really accusational. And if we're actually asking them what happened, we're opening that door. We're opening that door to a conversation. We're opening that door to healing, and that's what our children need.
The problem is, for a lot of us, we weren't parented in that way either. So we're not like we can repeat what our parents showed us. Is we're often finding out we're walking a path we don't know with children who don't know the path either, and yet we're the one who's supposed to be the leader, the adult who knows everything, and we're all struggling.
Yeah.
But you can make mistakes, you can get it completely wrong, but if you're open and honest with your children, they'll understand that at least you're trying. And that's an important part. But I didn't want to go too much into adolescence because we've talked probably a couple of hours on that off air already, and it's phenomenal, and there's all over the social medias about it. So we could probably just do a whole series just on adolescence in each episode, but I'm not going to.
We could.
Thank you for today. I think with all the issues, it has to come back to those relationships and children feeling valued and wanted, and someone helping them through the things they're struggling with. That will get them into school, and it will get them with those outcomes they want. Whether it's attainment, whatever it is, but it's the outcomes for them, what they want. And there's lots of nudging, but it has to start with the relationships. And the parental ones, that home relationship is the most important, but building relationships in school with staff is also really important. And there are times where a child isn't allowed out of classroom, but actually that child walking out the classroom and just standing outside is the right thing. And then you as a teacher, and I know it sounds wrong, and not following the rules in that situation is the right thing to do, because it's that trust, it's that building relationships, and saying to them, I should have reported this, you shouldn't have done this, but what kind of, not what's wrong or what's wrong with you, but what were you going through, asking those questions and finding and building that trust that actually, I see you were struggling, I saw you took yourself out of the classroom instead of doing this, which was a great decision. You removed yourself from the situation. And it's finding those, there are rules which are non-negotiables, safety, all those sorts of things. And there are rules which are in reality negotiable. And it's making the right decision around those, that build those relationships and that trust, so that next time they'll open up more. They'll build that trust with you. Anything else to add?
You've summed it up beautifully, Dale. Just that flexibility, knowing your children and being flexible, and knowing, that flexibility will help you to meet their needs. That's key. And just remembering that key point, that every single interaction that you have with them could be an intervention. It could actually make that difference. It's really important to remember that.
So thank you for coming on the show today. As always, you'll find Helen's contact details in our show notes. Well, as always, it's only Helen's when Helen's on. But it's And Helen recommended survival psychology. She mentioned When Adults Change, Everything Changes. She didn't mention Square Pegs, but she has given that to me in a link. So there's another book. So links to those and finding them on Amazon are in the show notes. And as always, you'll find the show notes on our website or wherever you listen to the podcast. So thank you for listening. If you want to get in touch, let us know your thoughts, suggest topics or anything else, please send a message via one of the social media channels or send an email to hello@thesencast.com. The Sencast is created and produced by us here at B Squared, and we help to show the small steps of progress pupils with SEND make. And we can do this for a wide range of abilities and ages, and we have a range of frameworks to suit students from birth all the way through to 25. And our Steps for Life is all about those academic functional skills, employability skills, and all those independence and life skills. And at the other end of the spectrum, for the most complex learners working within the engagement model, we have our engagement steps. And that can show progress and build a profile of the student's needs really easily. Visit the B Square website or click on the meeting link in the show notes to book a meeting with me to take you through our assessment software and how it can help you. So thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Sencast. It's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Bye.